Welcome, everyone. We're delighted to have you with us today to the second episode of Meet Your Neighbors. Today, I'm delighted to have the privilege to talk with Meg Kilgore, who's the organizer of BYO Branford. BYO is Bring Your Own, hopefully, cloth bag. And the movement is a growing movement within our state of Connecticut and throughout our country to ban single-use plastic bags. So welcome, Meg.
Thank you very much, Marge.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us into your home and taking the time to talk with us today.
You're welcome.
So Meg, during the time that I've gotten to know you, I've learned some interesting things that I'd like to share with our viewing audience. Firstly, I learned that your birthday is on Earth Day.
That's right.
So who knows, maybe that is one of the factors that help lead you in this path of concern for our environment. We'll never know that, but it's something to reflect on at least. I also learned, which I found fascinating, that I think it was your college years that you lived in New York City. Is that true?
No, it was after I graduated from undergraduate college.
Okay, but that you were, what intrigued me is that you were a cycling recycler. Can you tell our audience what that means?
Yes, in New York City, I believe it was their first effort of recycling that they had a spot underneath the 59th Street Bridge, which of course is on 59th Street in Manhattan. And I lived uptown from there, so what I would do is I saved my recyclables, put them in the basket of my bicycle, and when I had a full amount, I would cycle down there and distribute to the different piles my stuff.
It goes to my heart, Meg. I think that is before many of us were really concerned. I give you all the credit. Okay, also, Meg, I'd like to ask you how long you've lived in Branford?
About 30 years.
Wow, okay. And what brought you here?
The main reason I came here was that I always loved to sail. When I was a youngster, I went to a camp that was on the Neuse River in North Carolina, and boating was the main sport there. And so I learned how to sail on a sunfish and just loved sailing. So I wanted to move someplace where sailing was possible and also near a city of some size so that I wouldn't be, in the country by myself, isolated. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know when you did arrive, I don't know how many years later than that, that you became the president of the Land Trust Company, and the Land Trust for about 2 years. Right. And that now you're the membership chair.
That's correct.
But I also know that you started up some kind of an environmental group for families. Can you tell us what that was about? Okay, no worries. I will remind you. It was a Nature Explorer program.
Part of the Branford Land Trust. Yes.
Oh, it was part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
so
what did you do? What kind of program was it?
Well, it started after the 40th anniversary picnic, which was, since this is their 50th year, it was 10 years ago that I was in charge of this picnic.
Okay.
And we had a lot of people that came with various things, some things from the Peabody Museum, places that had animals, there was a scavenger hunt and things like that. And I thought, why don't we offer more programs sort of in this vein to get families out to get involved in nature.
Beautiful. And so how long was it in existence?
For probably about 8 or 9 years.
Oh, magnificent.
Yeah.
Not at this point.
Well, not exactly. They sort of have dropped that name, but the Land Trust does offer a lot of walks and other activities during the year to get people involved with families as well as adults.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's get to BYO Branford, okay? Can you tell us, Meg, what motivated this endeavor?
Well, I think it was just hearing more environmentally from various organizations online and in papers about the problems with plastics. And just knowing that that I really have a lot of concern for nature, whether it's the oceans, the forest, and all kinds of things. And that Branford basically, we're lucky. We have a large amount of preserved lands here, both from the town, the water company, and the land trust. And we also really have, I believe it's 20 miles of waterfront in Branford. And there are a lot of people that do sailing, kayaking, fishing, swimming, all kinds of activities concerned with the water. In fact, of course, there are other people that just go and sit by the water and watch it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a really important part of what Branford is and why people love it so much.
I agree with you. That's why so many of us have lived here for a long, long time, or have moved here like my husband and I did recently, because we always wanted to live by the water.
Right.
So it's something that I think we certainly have to be mindful of and protect. So what's the objective of BYO?
Okay, our purpose is to get people to bring their own bags that are reusable for the checkout when you go to retail stores. And instead of having those single-use plastic bags. Yes.
So tell us, please, for those of us that might not be aware, so what's the problem of the single-use plastic bag?
Yeah, most of them are tossed after being used one time. Okay.
And so let's go a step further, if I
Yeah.
may. Okay, so they're tossed, so what's the problem?
Well, that 40% roughly are tossed, and 20% of these end up in the ocean.
And
Okay.
so then what?
Well, and then when they're in the ocean, they biodegrade, and so they produce these microplastics that are eaten by whatever lives in the water. Yes.
And then we eat.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And when we consume them, yes.
So it's toxic not only to our marine life, but to human beings as well.
That's right.
I know also you're an avid bird watcher. Birds too are eating plastic, those single-use plastic bags, and dying. There are species of birds that are really diminishing because they're consuming the plastic. Is that not correct?
Yes. The example in the movie Bagot, which we show the people, has the albatross, which there's a huge colony on Midway Island or Midway Atoll. And basically, the parents have to go a long distance to get the food for their babies, and the babies eat whatever the parents bring. And when they have birds that die, if they do a necropsy, like an autopsy, they find the plastic, pieces of plastic, plus even bottle tops and cigarette lighters, all kinds of things that are made of plastic that are in the stomachs, and the babies eventually die.
It's really a tragic situation that we can have positive impact if we are mindful.
That's right.
I think for those of us, and so many of us have so many of these single-use plastic bags that we get, or many of us have stopped getting, but that we might have. And I know that when they rip apart and you want to put them into the garbage, it's best, I believe, to really tie them very tightly into a knot. Because then it's less of a chance that they get out into the waterways, and if so, it's less of a chance that marine life and bird life on land will consume it. Is that not correct?
You know more about that part than I do, but it makes sense because when they're not folded or heavier, then they're like a sail. That's my sailing experience. Or if you were a kite flyer, it really just blows in the wind.
It just takes it.
Yes, and generally when it blows, it eventually ends up, if not in a tree, it ends up in some body of water. And even creeks go into rivers, and rivers go into sounds or whatever, and then into the ocean. So that's how there gets to be so much plastic in the ocean.
That's exactly. So there are other towns that have, accomplished this ban on the single-use plastic bag. Are you aware of which towns they are?
You're talking about in Connecticut?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, in Connecticut.
Yeah. In Connecticut, the first one was Westport. And believe it or not, they passed their ban in 2008. So they've been doing it for 10 years.
I admire that.
I know. And I've talked to them on numerous occasions. And basically, they had a strong educational effort before the ban, and they had very few problems with it. And so it's still going strong.
Wonderful. Any other towns that you are aware of?
Yeah. Greenwich passed one in January, and it went into effect in September. So it's right now going into effect.
Good for them.
Yeah. And apparently, there are about 10 or 12 other towns in Connecticut that are like Branford, and we're working on getting one.
It's the process.
That's
So
right.
I know Guilford is one.
That's right.
And I know Hamden is another.
I think Hamden is really just beginning to think about it.
Okay.
But there's Newtown, I think Mansfield.
Mansfield is correct. That's where we hail from, so
Oh, okay.
that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there are a list of, I think, at least 10 others that are working on it.
Exactly. So, Meg, you say that it's a process, which everything worthwhile is a process, and it's a lot of time and hard work, dedication and connection among many people who care. So can you tell us what some of this process has been like for you?
Okay. Well, somehow or another, the word got out, and there are about now 12 or so people that are on this committee.
Wonderful.
Branford I get asked when I put up a sign, a poster, "Are you a nonprofit?" I said, "No, not even that. We're a group of concerned citizens that live in Branford."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're about 12 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we first did when we met is we decided we had to come up with a petition, because we needed to show when we present an ordinance to the RTM that basically there is a lot of support for this in Branford. So this petition was, after numerous sort of workovers of the petition, we finalized it. And since that time, and in the spring, we have gotten 800 signatures for our.
Bravo. That's a very sizable number that could be presented to the RTM. Do you have youth involved at all?
We do a little bit now. I had a letter to the editor in the paper, and one of the responses that I got was from a mother of a second grader, that they got so excited when they read the letter to the editor that they watched the movie Plastic Oceans, which also is a good movie, but I sort of prefer Baggett because it gets to the point quicker.
Okay.
And anyway, after they watched it, then the little girl decided that she wanted to write a letter to the public about her concern for the animals that live in the ocean.
That's wonderful.
And they made copies of this letter, 20 copies, went to the Stop and Shop and got 20 bags that they bought.
Great.
That were the thicker plastic bags that can be reused. Not our preference, our number one preference, but still much better than the single-use plastic bags.
Absolutely.
Put the letter in each bag and gave it to people shopping at Stop and Shop. All within a day or two of after reading the letter to the editor.
So I know, depending on what area that people are concerned and are actively involved, some people feel, oh, well, I might as well not get involved because it's just hopeless. I think that little girl's story shows us that every one of us can make a difference. Every one of us can have impact.
That's right.
And it's like the tree hugger, You can save a forest by hugging the tree and keeping the forest from being torn down. And I think it's the same with this, if we're just mindful. So what are some of the things that we can be mindful about?
Well, I think one of the first things, and it's interesting how many people have said this to me, is that, I have bags. I have lots of bags in my car, but then I'll get out of my car to go shopping, and I forget. And I think one of the hardest things for us to do in our lives, not just with the plastic bags, but with anything we want to change to be more positive in our life, that it's an effort. So I think the idea, and several people have told me, now I keep a bag or two on the front seat of my car so I won't forget.
Exactly.
And even I've had at least 30 bags in my trunk for a long time, I think a year ago, before I started working on this, sometimes I would forget. Mm-hmm. Okay, and usually I would come out hopefully with a few enough items that I could hold them in my hands.
Right.
But it's sort of like now it's like when you're going to work or something and you always take the same path, and even if you want to go to a different stop, you still go the same way.
Right, we're creatures of habit.
That's right. So we have to change the habits.
Right.
And I think the main thing to tell people is that if you have good intentions, sometimes you're going to forget. But the more you think about it and the more you sort of set up a procedure that's going to work for you, you will do it more and more often.
Absolutely, Meg. And I think not to get discouraged with ourselves.
Right.
So we forgot. So there are ways around it. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're carrying a big pocketbook, put some of the items in your pocketbook. Mm-hmm. Take your items in your carriage, in your cart. Mm-hmm. Bring it out to your car, and then pack it in the bags that you forgot. You can leave. You can just take the cart and then leave it in the car in the place where you put your carts. So there are ways around it until we train our brains and we transition to a new habit, and not get discouraged.
Right. And to that point, there are several stores that have never offered the plastic single-use bags.
Wonderful. What have they done?
Yeah, well, Aldi's is one of them. They do have a lot of cardboard cartons because they have everything that's sort of shown in those cartons in the store. So if you want to, you can put all what you buy in one of these cartons, or you can just put it in the cart. And like you say, even at the grocery store, take it to your car, unload it, and then put the cart where it belongs.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then there's Whole Foods that they offer just paper bags that meet the standards for the proper kind of paper bags that are at least 40% recycled paper.
So that's going to be the ultimate goal, correct? To go to 40% recyclable paper bags. Is that correct?
At least, yeah. And I think at Whole Foods they're probably 100% recycled. But it only has to be 40% recycled paper in the ordinance.
And there are many businesses that are doing that already.
That's right. That's right.
I know you mentioned Bag It, and I think it's a 45-minute documentary.
The first version we showed was, and actually on October 11th, if this is being shown before.
Yeah, I'm not sure, viewers, but there'll be other chances. Yeah. But on October 11th.
Yeah, we're going to show it again, but this will be a shorter version, 25 minutes, because we wanted to have some other people that are conservationists to come and make comments after the movie is over.
And Meg, this is not the final attempt to show Bag It.
No.
So I know that you're always looking for additional venues, right? So I think that's something we can reach out to our viewing audience. Mm-hmm. It can be a viewing in your home. It's so intimate and wonderful to have a movie, gather people. Maybe you can have a potluck, invite your neighbors, invite colleagues, invite family, and we'll come in. Somebody will come in and show it for you. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're a part of a group, or you are part of a church, or some other organization, and Meg, you'll come in and show it, correct?
Yes.
And there can be discussion afterward. There can be additional speakers that can be brought in. So please consider that. Together we can, and we are enough. We are who we need. And if there's a motivation, together we can make it happen.
Yes. So in that vein, we do have an email address.
Wonderful. How can they connect with you if viewers are interested?
Yeah. BYO Branford @gmail.com.
Wonderful. And I noticed when I came in, what is this, Meg?
This is our logo and insignia that we have on any posters or any flyers that we put out. And what it has the BYO, which is bring your own, but the B stands for Branford.
Oh, it's not for, okay,
BYO Branford.
I
Because,
get it.
you know the old phrase BYOB.
I get it. I
Means
know.
something else. So we're into bringing your own
Bag.
reusable bag.
Right.
Right.
Cloth may be preferred.
Cloth preferred.
You can wash
absolutely.
it.
That's right. That's right. But the ones that are thicker plastic bags, they
It's
can be
fine.
used as well because they last a very long time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I noticed there was some beautiful, what is this now?
Yes, this is a sign we had made up to give out to merchants who are supporting our efforts.
Right.
So it has a picture of a cloth bag with our logo on it, and then at the top it says, "This merchant reminds you to bring your own reusable bag." And at the bottom it says, "Make a difference." So when we do have a fair number of merchants that have already put this up in their store, but we're seeking more merchants as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And actually, in that vein, I'll put this down now. In that vein, I've also arranged on November 8th at the Willoughby Wallace Library,
Wonderful.
which is our sort of home base, because there's so much
Blackstone is
support.
out of commission right now.
I know.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a meeting where we're going to invite all the Branford merchants.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and we will have a document that is going to be our version of the ordinance we want the RTM to pass for them to review and then to give us our comments on how they feel about the ordinance so that we can maybe make some changes before we present it to the RTM based on what the merchants feel.
And you'll have more of a finger on the pulse of,
That's right.
of the business community, which is vital. We're all in this together.
That's right, that's right.
Wonderful. This has been fascinating, Meg. I've so appreciated your time. Anything else before we say just goodbye for a while?
No, I think that's basically it. I think, well, you want me to go over the reasons why the plastic bags are a problem?
Well, let's do that.
Okay. Because these are just, in general, what they do in our community as well as any place in the world where you find these bags.
Right.
They clog storm drains. They break down, we mentioned this before, into the microplastics that are harmful to both humans and animals.
Yes.
They also kill wildlife by getting strangled around them, or that, like the whales.
The whales. That's
They eat
right.
huge pieces of plastic and can die from that.
They have.
Yeah. Plus, they're a blight on the landscape. Those are the ones that land on the trees, around the bushes. And of course, some of them that are in the ocean that wash up on our beaches and are really very unattractive and not good for.
Yes, I just want to interject with that because that brings to mind, I don't know how many, we're rather new to the community, but I don't know how many times in a year that, is it Save the Sound?
Save the Sound.
Yes, brings people together to go onto the various beaches. You pick which beach and you help clean the plastic. That's another way that people can get involved and feel empowered by doing something
Right.
to protect our marine life
Right.
and birds and people.
Right.
But I know my husband and I did that. I know we met you. We went, was it the East Haven Beach we went?
East Haven Beach.
Hammonasset. I mean, it's all around. So that's just another way to get
Right.
involved, to
Right.
get those bags
Right.
off of the land before it gets into
Right.
the water.
And we do have a cloth bag that we've made up that we give to people. And basically, it has our logo on the front, only in one color, but it's a big, bold one. And on the back is the insignia of Connecticut Fund for the Environment and Save the Sound.
Beautiful.
And which is a wonderful endorsement for us since there's so much into the environment and making sure that we work to have it be more pristine. Yeah.
Right. Anything else to share?
Well, that also that these plastic bags cover 8% of the oceans now.
My
So
gosh.
that's a huge percent. We're not talking about just the Atlantic. The Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, all the oceans have plastic in them.
Oh, yes. So from the bottom of my heart, really, Meg, I thank you for your efforts and helping to protect what really matters in our world, our waters. So it's a privilege to have you as my neighbor.
Oh, thank you. And it's a privilege that you're doing this for Branford to talk to me and all the other people that are helping Branford be a better place.
Yes, thank you so much, Meg.
You're welcome, Marge.
Take care now.
You too.
So thank you so much, everybody, for choosing to join Meg and I today. Next month, we will be introducing you to another 3 exceptional members of our community, and they will be telling their very interesting and inspiring stories. So tune in to Meet Your Neighbors in November. And also, before I sign off, I just want to remind you that we welcome all suggestions, comments, anything that you might want to share with us. Please send it to us at margedavidpeace, that's P-E-A-C-E, @gmail.com. And in the meantime, until November, happy autumn!